Hello, I am Umbrenero and welcome back to Umbrenero's Life. Today's video is doing a 500 piece puzzle. So we are back again with another puzzle that will be the same size as the 300 piece, but the pieces are just smaller. So like the other one, I started this the same exact way. I went and started pulling out all of the border pieces because I wanted to make it easier on myself. But in reality, this did not really make it that much easier because there's a lot of orange throughout this entire puzzle. I think in all it took me around 3 hours to do this one, just because of the amount of orange there was. But first things first is getting that nice edge done. And for this one, there really wasn't much design for the edge, so I didn't have any of that to use really to help figure out where some of these pieces were going to end up going. So a lot of it was just going with my instincts and figuring out what fit where. At the top of the puzzle, there is a little bit of detail that I was able to use to help piece together where stuff eventually goes. But for building the edge, it didn't help that much. So when I got here, I realized, again, I need to adjust the way the puzzle is sitting slightly, because the way I'm working on this is not going to work out so well. So I had to rotate it, which meant breaking it apart in a few pieces and getting it realigned elsewhere. But now it was time to actually start working on the puzzle itself. And I decided to try to start from the bottom again and go from there. This was alright at first, especially when I was just starting to pull some of the pieces that had some of the border color and all of that, because those ones were easy to figure out. It's when I started pulling the orange pieces, because this puzzle is of Dragonite and Charizard, and their colors are kind of close, so while working on a puzzle for them, there is a difference between them. But when you're looking at so many pieces, it just gets so close, and you're having to try to figure out which is which is not always the easiest thing to do. So I was trying to focus more on this bottom half, and I will say right now, I was using that picture to try to figure it out, because this one was not as easy. But I kept going with the flow and just plugging pieces in where they seem to fit. And you might be going, there's quite a bit of blue down here in this area. Well, the picture had a good amount of blue that was in the bottom part, but there was also some in the top. So it was using the colors in the background that weren't blue to help figure out where they really did belong. So by this point, I haven't even gone through most of the pieces. I've only gone through some of them. And this is where I really realized there's one area of this puzzle that is going to be a pain to do. And that's going to be the center, right where the words are going to be. But I just kept going, and here I realized, hey, Dragonite can actually fit right here, so let's get it placed so that way I'm not having to lose these pieces over and over again. Like, Dragonite's eyes were migrating around quite a bit while I was working on it, but I knew where they were for the most part. That was the big thing. So we had the number done, and I was still just getting through it the best I could. And for a bit here, I didn't realize that I could have stuck the number down lower. So when I finally did that, freed up a little bit of space, helped a bit. And I just kept on a-going. Because I was trying to pull the orange pieces that looked like they would fit Dragonite's color more and put them on this side. And then any that looked like they would have fit Charizard, I was putting on the opposite side. But this is also where I started to give up on working with the blue color a little bit, because the amount of blue that was in the middle of this puzzle was a lot. But we soon got Dragonite's eyes put in, and then I went back to the blue, realized, hey, I had a few of these pieces together, put them in, and kept going. But I knew I was getting close to the area with the words, and that was worrying me because these words, they didn't feel like they were going to be easy to do. Yes, they had gradients within the letters themselves, but just getting them into the right place, because they were all shaped very similarly, it just made it more difficult. Piece by piece, kept on a-going though. Filled in as much of the blue area that I could that was by Dragonite. Knew I had some pieces that belonged in this general area, so I tried to keep them as close as I could to this half. But there are times where you just need to take a break from what you're working on to work on something else. And here I did something that I don't know if this was fully smart or not. I used my card organizer to help store some pieces so that way they were out of the way. I thought, well, this can't hurt. This will just make it a little more controlled. I'll have them in a separate area and I'll be able to figure this out a little bit easier once those pieces are not hogging up all the space I need. Well, it kind of worked. So what I did is any of the pieces that had any color that was related to Charizard's wings, I put into the card organizer. It helped condense where the chaos was, at least for now. And I was trying to do a lot of the edge pieces because once I had those done, I'd be able to start working on building Charizard. And yes, a lot of the letters that were in the middle of this puzzle are still in this pile of pieces. Because where else would they have gone? But kept on trucking through. And in the background there, you can kind of see the poster that was for this puzzle. And I'll say, this one was a little harder. I know there's 2 more puzzles that I will be doing for my channel this year. And they are a 700 and a 1,000 piece, respectively. So we will see exactly how those ones will go. Because when I was looking at the 700 piece, it's a different shape. It's not a rectangle like how this one and the 300 piece were. So we will see. And hopefully I will find the part for my tripod by then so that way I can have a better angle of the puzzle. But back to working on this, I was just doing a lot of organizing and trying to figure out what was supposed to go where. And I was building little parts of Charizard's claws here and there, figuring out, okay, these go together. This looks like it's a letter, potentially. And that's where I was using the card sorter to pull pieces away just to free up the space. Because there's a lot going on that I needed the space for. Like here, I just shoved everything down to the middle and added in Charizard's belly and started grabbing the wing pieces to secure it in place. Because since I had most of them pulled out, it was easier to put them back in because I knew they belonged in this general area based off of the design. So I kept on a-going. And a-going. But now that the wings were just about done, it was time to fill in the rest of Charizard's body. And with getting that area completed, that meant all that was left were the words, which I was having problems with. Because the way they just laid out, they were not the easiest part to do. So here I went in quickly, put a couple more pieces onto Dragonite that were needed, and started placing where these letters should be going. And it helped a little bit because of Dragonite's antenna. They go up into a couple of letters, so those two helped a little bit at placing this, but going through and just getting the rest of them, that was a pain. Then again, I say that about a lot of games. Not games, about a lot of things. It's one of them days. But I figured doing the dark border around the outside of the letters, like the main border, would make it a little bit easier to fill in the colored gradient parts within. And it did help a bit. Made it a little more easy. And it started to flow once there weren't many pieces left. Like here, I was focusing on just getting in what I could that had the thick black border somewhere, just to help clear out pieces that wouldn't fit anywhere else. And I figured that the reason this part was so much harder than I thought it was going to be is because of how much those pieces did blend in with Dragonite at the beginning. Like, if it would have been a little different color, it would have been a lot easier. But it is what it is, and I do end up getting it done. So that should say something. But we're finally in that home stretch of getting this puzzle done. Like I said, once you get to a certain point, pieces just start falling into place very easily. Like, Dragonite is finally finished, and the letters just have a couple spots missing when you really think about it. I would have to say this wasn't that bad of a puzzle. It was a little more difficult, which is okay because you don't want everything to be simple all the time. And yeah, you don't want it all to be simple. But I did have fun doing this, and I'm looking forward to doing a couple more. So, thanks for watching, and until next time, I am Umbrenero. Bye!